Not everything legal is moral. What is the best contemporary example of this? Cheating on your SO. In the U.S. military court system, it is illegal to cheat onto your SO. You can be charged with dishonorable discharge, retirement forfeiture, and imprisonment. You won't get a dishonorable, but you'll certainly get an other than honorable. Huge difference. But yay, cheat on your wife and your career is over. Ironically, though, if your wife cheats on you, you'll likely find yourself in the single barracks while she lives in your house. You can marry a goat in some Midwestern states but not your neighbor's goat. Damn it. Insurance companies denying full coverage or the highest standard of care to cancer patients. Especially pediatric cancer patients. You are so right, Peas. If your kid has cancer, look into Street Jude. It is completely free and some of the best care you can get. War on drugs. I already commented on a similar post, but I feel strongly enough about this to also comment here. Lol, fuck Reagan. Hiding billions of dollars in offshore accounts so as not to be taxed. Technically, tax evasion is still illegal. I'm sure there are plenty of legal loopholes that prevent it from being evasion. However, that a police officer can use unauthorized force in unarmed protesters. Toxic parenting. Yes, emotional and psychological abuse is functionally legal. BC, it's hard to prove and doesn't leave visible marks. It's fucking hell. MLMs, fast fashion, factory farming, forcing religion onto kids without choice, payday loans, catfishing, parents posting hundreds of pictures of their young children online. Every concentration camp in North Korea and China is legal. Guantanamo Bay is legal, so you may say torturing is legal, but the kind of people in Guantanamo justifies it morally. Edit spelling. Facebook, Google, and lots of companies that sell your information online for targeted advertising. We are just helping you get the stuff you need. On one hand, I think there should definitely be more protections for digital privacy. Regulations on the collection, storage, and distribution of histories and data. What cannot be in a EULA, how often they can be revised, etc. On the other, these large companies provide countless free services and nobody is forcing people to use them. To expect large corporations to continue hosting such services without any form of compensation. In this case, data is naive. Data is the currency we sacrifice to avoid monetary fees for services we use every day. If you don't like this reality, try something else. Private equity firms that buy successful companies, load them with debt, bankrupt them, and sell off the assets, leaving communities destroyed and destroying the livelihood of thousands to make a few $million. Is this really legal? Well, advertisements for prescription medication. Agreed. I'm not used to advertisements. Thanks streaming services. And spent an afternoon at my grandparents' who still use cable television. Almost every single commercial I saw was for some form of medication. It just doesn't feel right. Child support enforced by the state against statutorily rape male minors to force them to support their unwanted child. The morality is weird about that one, because the needs of the child are significant. At the same time, I think that's the burden of the state personally and shouldn't be the burden of the victim. Monsieur, in a number of states, a woman who is raped is forced to share custody with the rapist. So screwed up. Refusing to vaccinate your children. I know people like to argue the religious exemption, but the problem with that is that so often, these so-called anti-vaxxers aren't necessarily refusing to do so for religious reasons. Moreover, their children rarely have access to the information necessary to make an informed decision. Even if they could make an informed decision, there is the strong argument that refusing to vaccinate you and/or your children endangers not only you yourselves but also others. Vaccines can only be effective if a certain % of people get them. And in cases like the flu, maintain them yearly with booster shots. Not everybody is going to have equitable access to vaccines under present conditions in the US. But we still have to balance personal freedom with public safety. This, like so many other freedom versus responsibility hot-button topics in our day and age, relates to the implicit contract we're all passive signatory parties to so we can live in a civilized society. Corporate spending to buy elections. Morally reprehensible, but legal thanks to Citizens United. Trump got elected with fewer votes. Under the Electoral College, it is technically possible to win the presidency with only 22% of the popular vote. Not wearing a mask during a pandemic. Also, spreading conspiracies like 5 grams causes corona. Little do we know the mask companies are spreading that theory so people buy more masks. Cutting in line. Civil asset forfeiture. A really old person dating a really young person of age. I get why people question it, but immoral? That seems pretty judgmental and potentially ageist. Depends what ages we're talking about here. A 60-year-old dating a 25-year-old? Fine in my books so long as they both understand what they're getting into. A 40-year-old dating a 16-year-old. Which is legal where I live? Nope. Immoral. Sorry. Call me ageist if you must. But 16 is still a kid. I say this as someone who dated someone who was 18 when I was 30. It didn't work because she was basically still a kid and we really weren't on the same level, mentally or in terms of life experience. It's legal to get married at age 12 in Massachusetts with parental consent. Age of consent. What I mean is how in certain countries it's age 16 and below. Just because it's legal doesn't mean that people in their 20s, 30s and above can have a go at a 16-year-old and below. They are still going throughout hormones and changes. Same how it's wrong to date someone under 18 as if the day they turn 18 they magically turn into an adult and then it's completely fine. I don't think being racist is illegal, though acting racist definitely is and should be too. Acting racist isn't illegal. Also, you really wouldn't want it to be, because there's not actually any unambiguous definition of what racism even means. That would be a potentially very slippery slope. Discrimination in hiring and public accommodation are illegal, except the whole employment discrimination thing is pretty much impossible to prove. I feel disgusted that in 2020 we are still battling with racism. You're really surprised that there are shitty people in the world? Racism is sadly something that will continue as long as humans have defining characteristics. Companies not paying their employees a livable wage. Walmart taking out key man insurance policies on cashiers. Basically making bets that their cashiers will die. They may have stopped that since it became public back in 2010. I mean, people will die. Instead of focusing on just Walmart, how about the idea that it's legal to take out an insurance policy on other people in general? Not trying to defend Walmart for doing it either. Saying the practice should be the problem over one company doing it. Key man policies were developed for situations where the loss of a particular employee would severely impact a company. Talking Tesla having a key man policy on Elon Musk kind of thing. Using a policy on an employee that can easily replaced is just ghoulish. It is legal to beat your wife on the local courthouse steps on a Sunday in West Virginia SMH. In Oklahoma it's legal to beat your wife at any time with a stick as long as its diameter isn't wider than your thumb, and so long as the injuries are only superficial like cuts, bruises, etc. Rule of thumb. Can't do very much damage with that. Maybe they should have made it rule of wrist. Boondock Saints. Try saying that around good ol' Rosengertel Baumgardner. Death penalty in the US. Shows how in that country human rights are barely a thing. I think this would be a lot less of a thing if the US penal system was rehabilitative instead of punitive. The way things work here now, once you go to jail once, it's a lot more likely to happen again. Not like you're gonna get a decent paying job. And it's hard to convince citizens to keep paying massive private organizations to keep taking care of prisoners. often better than you average poor, when they keep going back into jail, because they don't really have any good options for supporting themselves or changing their life. Always makes me laugh when someone claims to support small government and then in the same breath voices their support for the death penalty. Nothing says small government like the state having the ability to take a life. Not putting your cart in the corral. Breaking up with your girlfriend right after she gets pregnant. As long as it's also illegal to lie about status of contraceptive use in order to trap a guy. Situation dependent. BC sabotage or cheating involved? Go right ahead. Child marriage in America is legal in some places, which legalizes pedophilia. It's legal almost everywhere. Only a handful of states have successfully set the minimum age at 18. Most people assume that child marriages are like a 17 and 18-year-old getting married because the older party is joining the military and the younger party wants to live with them, beyond their insurance. But there's no legal limit to the age of the older party, and child marriage has been used to cover up child rape as well. Religious communities forcing girls to marry their rapists so they can't be compelled to testify against them. Disney suing a poor kindergarten in Florida over a mural of Disney characters over copyright infringement and plagiarism. Edit. Correction of location and spelling. The tax structures of so many global companies. Tax should be paid back into maintaining the economy where the revenue was generated. You can hire someone at 25 hours a week and not give them any benefits, but demand full availability so they can't get another job. I worked full-time at McDonald's when the Affordable Care Act was passed. They dropped my hours to part-time to avoid paying for increased benefits. So, for the last years of my degree, I was forced to work 2 part-time jobs and go to school to make ends meet. I get fucking roasted all the time when I say that Obamacare was shitty policy. In spirit, no, but the reality is that we all got played. The amount businesses had to pay towards health care should have been linearly prorated based on 40 hours. That way there's no incentive to have 2 employees at 20 hours versus 1 at 40. Religious genital mutilation. Forcing the proletariat to believe a 40-hour work week is normal and their want for time off is shunned as laziness or not wanting the job enough. Too many people believe that they need to live to work. Workaholism is praised like it should be what people strive to be. It really doesn't make sense to me. The government criminalizing, institutionalizing drug users. They're tearing families apart and bankrupting them further than they already are. They should be instead offering help to those who need it and leaving people who don't need help TF alone. 100% agree. Reagan started something that never reduced drug users. The only thing it accomplished was militarizing the U.S. police and creating a new class of criminal who should be patient. Fuck Reagan. Hurting animals for pleasure. That time when slavery was legal. Also those places where it still is. It's still legal in the USA, thanks to the 13-carat amendment. The 13th Amendment totally allows for prison slavery. Slavery is still very active in the U.S. It's called prison labor. Throwing car batteries into the ocean. Protesting during a pandemic in total defiance of public health orders. Depends on what you're protesting. Protesting being asked to wear a mask and social distance so people don't die. Immoral. Protesting systemic racism and the fact that cops are murdering people daily with no repercussions. A moral imperative. Yes, it's a well-known fact that corona actually can't infect you as long as you shout "this is for a good cause." So, public health be damned. Well, the BLM protesters have been wearing masks, so it's not like they're even in total defiance. But I'd say that POC being murdered indiscriminately also qualifies as a public health issue. Getting murdered is pretty bad for your health. Not the BLM people I've seen. They have their masks off so they can yell louder. As I noted to somebody else, I must have missed the news conference when social distancing rules were revoked. A long-standing one. I mean, how many generations of patience until it explodes? Too fucking many. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.